y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast, live streaming on Millions. I do want to shout out right off the top we are doing a Calling the Dog segment every game preview episode, and if you're drunk and funny enough, we'll even put it in the recap episode. And what that is when you give us a call on this number, leave a voicemail, and we want your most outrageous Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, like WWE promo, trash talk, all of the above. I mean, you can even throw Conor McGregor style in there because he kind of took it from them. But we want that, and then at the end of the game, if you're drunk, if you're obnoxious, like we expect you to be, and funny is more important, call and leave us a voicemail then as well. But I'll go ahead and throw out the number for the Calling the Dog segment, and that is 678-465-8020. So, please do that. You'll get on the show. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting. It'll be a good time. Also, off the top here, we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, but we are doing a watch party for the Florida at Utah game this week on Thursday, so don't forget to keep an eye out for that link in the next few days to join in on that watch party with us. But I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. There's a hurricane with potential 70-mile-an-hour winds coming for my house on Thursday. So I may not have power to watch the game, let alone live stream the game, but we'll keep y'all updated as it goes on for that. And if you hear noises in the background, I do have a couple of fans on right now because our air conditioner has been out since Friday night. And it's hot as fuck in Savannah, if you didn't know that. So I'm over here in a tank top, sweating what little bit of ass I got off.
You got that Hank Hill ass?
Oh, no. So what happened is I heard that joke where I laughed my ass off and it never came back.
Oh, man.
And then what little bit I had left, I sweated off in the last 2 days, it being August in Savannah, my air's out. So if you hear some extra noise in the background, please forgive me. I'm trying to not have a heat stroke while recording tonight. So I hope I get a little bit of grace for that. But
for what it's worth, I don't hear anything. So
it makes
should
me
be all right.
Because I do have two fans pointed right at me.
There we go.
So tonight we are going over a couple of the Week 0 games and some interesting things that at least I thought were interesting from Week 0. Hopefully you guys did too. And then we're going to give our best season-long bets for the 2023 football season. And then we're going to do a little Florida-Utah talk in this episode as well, because by the time we record on Wednesday, it'll kind of be late to talk about that game, even though it's on Thursday. So that's what we got on the slate tonight. But before we get to all of that, how was your weekend and what are you drinking?
Weekend was pretty shitty. Everybody in our house is really sick. Today's the first day since probably Thursday that I felt even close to like 90%. So, but wife, a couple kids not feeling great at the moment. So, not too great. As far as what I'm drinking, it's just water. Trying to hydrate a little bit. As much as I can. I wanted to be able to drink, but it's just not going to happen. How about you?
Well, I already kind of talked about it. Friday we went out to dinner with some friends. Went to a really cool bar in Savannah called Mood Rights. They have candlepin bowling inside of the bar, so we did that for a little bit. Got home 10:30, 11 o'clock, something like that, and our house was 80 degrees.
Not ideal. Not on purpose.
No. But I was like, okay, I know the problem. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to go get some parts and fix it. One thing I did not account for, living across the street from the saltwater marsh, is that the fan blade of my AC unit on the outside would be welded with rust to the motor. So I got a new motor, and I was like, cool, I'll swap the fan from one motor to the other. I'll be good. I got a torch out. Could not move it.
Oh, no.
And by the time I realized that it's probably worth just spending the $50-$100 on a second fan, the parts warehouse was closed for the weekend.
Of course.
So I am actually taking tomorrow off of work to attempt to get our air fixed. So weekend not great. Then yesterday we went to Slush Fest out at Two Tides, where all they have is, like 30 different alcoholic slushies to choose from. Super cool, had a ton of fun. Somebody walked up to our table and just handed us tickets to a Blink-182 cover band that was playing in Savannah a block away. We were like,
hell yeah.
Okay, cool, we'll go to that. On the ticket, it said, door at 7, show at 8. So we showed up at 7:55. Would you like to guess what time the band actually started playing?
And it's a cover band, too. So I'm going to say 9, because even that's ridiculous.
9:30.
Yeah, that's...
If I was not already drunk, I would have left. But I was like, you know what? We got free tickets. We're here. We're having a good time hanging out. Let's just kind of see how it goes.
Did anybody just feel like belting out, "Where are you?"
No.
The entire fucking time, before they came up?
No. That would have been
missed opportunity.
That would have been a good one to do, but no. And the band came on and they weren't great. So.
Well, I mean, it was free, I guess. Shit.
It was to the point where we were so upset that we waited an hour and a half for a band that wasn't don't get me wrong, the music was good, but the lead singer should not have been the lead singer. The guy that was singing backup was a better singer than the lead singer. Don't get that.
Is that kind of like the real Blink-182?
Well, so here's the thing. The guy that was singing backup sounded more like Tom DeLonge than the guy that was lead singing.
Working out some kinks.
Yeah, so we left after 3 songs and went home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't like you had an air-conditioned house to come back to, so there wasn't really a hurry.
Yeah, also that. Thanks to our hurricane prep kit we got together last year, we did have a window unit. So my wife and I and our 3 dogs and a cat have been sleeping in one room, which not great, not enjoyable. But we did have some friends of ours let us borrow their window units for a couple of days. So now we have 3 window units going in the house to try to keep it below 80 degrees.
Damn. Damn. I have nothing else to add to that. I can't imagine, especially in the middle or the end of fucking August here, all places.
Not great. So I am actually finishing a very large water heater, and then I've got some Jefferson's Ocean aged at sea double barrel rye. I had it last year. I know I drank it on the show a number of times last year, but honestly, it's low proof, and I do not need very much alcohol right now, considering how hot it is.
Yeah.
So I'll be switching back and forth between that and water.
Right on.
All right, guys. Are y'all ready to talk about these great Week 0 games?
Before we even get into it, I'm curious as to why more teams don't try to schedule Week 0 games. Why does it have to be Vandy and Hawaii and USC and a team that put up way too many points on them? A few years ago, Florida and Miami did it, and that game was awful, but at least it was some name-brand teams.
I'm not a fan of big teams playing on Week 0, and the biggest reason I say that is for the longest time, week 0 was some of these like mid-major programs' time to shine. It was some of these names that you hear about, but if given the option of another game to watch on a fall Saturday, you're not watching that team.
Yeah.
But when bigger names start having games on week 0, teams or people watch those games instead of those. Like, for example, if Navy wasn't playing in Dublin, zero people would tune into that game intentionally.
Fair. Yeah, that's a good point.
And that let everybody have an opportunity. Like USC scheduling a week 0 game, and we'll get to why they said they did it in a minute. But that's trashy. Like, you don't need extra eyes. You don't need it.
I would say though, like, isn't there the benefit of doing it is that you get an extra bye week, and like someone like Hawaii, which we'll talk about in a little bit, like they actually are playing 13 games instead of 12. You do get an extra bye at a minimum if you choose to not, again, do a 13th game. So there's some tangible benefit to it if and you can start fall camp a little bit earlier in preparation for it. But I agree with you. I mean, a couple name brand teams there, but there's not like a marquee matchup necessarily that you had to ever have to like make sure that you're in front of the TV for. Like you can just kind of check in on it every once in a while and not always plan your whole day around it, which is fine. It's a good way to ease into it.
Yeah. So I do want to go ahead and start leading off with USC because I have a lot of takes about USC from this game. And the first is USC is mentally weak as fuck. I know before I've said Ohio State might be the mentally weakest team in the country. USC took that from them.
Yeah.
Like, straight up mugged Ohio State for this title that we are handing out. So, and the reason I say that, USC scheduled San Jose State for week 0 with the entire purpose of having the week before the potential conference championship game off.
Oh, really?
Yes, Lincoln Riley came out and said that before the game.
So they're not actually playing a game like rivalry week.
Correct.
What the fuck?
Yes.
You know what?
So Lincoln Riley said he felt comfortable telling people this fact. He said that for the last 3 seasons, the week before the conference championship game has been a no-win situation for him and his team, so he is choosing to not play a game.
Oh my god. That is weak. Oh my god.
So I went back and looked. The only time a Lincoln Riley coach team has lost in rivalry week was to Oklahoma State in 2021, and that was because they don't play defense, and Oklahoma State had a phenomenal outside linebacker.
They should have made the playoff that year, Oklahoma State, right? Or maybe right? Or was that 2020?
I'd have to go back and look. 2021 was the reason that I was so high on Oklahoma State last year because I watched a few of their games in 2021. I saw what their defense was able to do with. He went to Ohio State for the last season and Spencer Sanders, but yeah, Lincoln Riley legitimately felt comfortable enough to tell the Pac-12 reporter that they scheduled a week 0 game so they didn't have to play the week before the conference championship, and that for the last 3 seasons, the week before the conference championship game has been a no-win situation for him and his team.
That is insane. Okay, wow. I'm speechless. I'm wow.
That's softer than baby shit. Like, I get he's moved out to LA and, he was already soft. He is softer than he wanted to play off his brisket being soft because that was some of the toughest shit I'd ever seen a picture of. But Lincoln Riley, what the fuck are you doing? Like, we're trying to be honest here. That's what we do. And if I'm being honest, say in 20 years I have a kid, that is getting recruited to play college football, I will not let my child attend a Lincoln Riley University.
It's probably a good call. He might not have enough grit to last that long.
I don't think he does. I think he'll go burn out in the NFL here in the next couple of years and then, just retire. Or pull the Cliff Kingsbury and have a couple good years in college, go to the NFL, burn out, and then become an analyst for a friend of yours because Cliff Kingsbury is now an offensive analyst for USC.
He couldn't have landed in a better spot for him. I don't know what he's going to actually help with, but okay.
So, an offensive analyst to be an on-the-field coach, as they showed him yesterday, with a play calling sheet in his hand and headphones on and covering his mouth while the offense was on the field. I almost think he's calling plays and they just don't want to say that out loud. Just can throw that out there.
Maybe because it was on the Pac-12 network and nobody could really see unless you were pirating it. Maybe he thought he can get away with it. Because I didn't notice that either. I was kind of in and out of that game.
Well, I do have a pirate ship tattoo on my arm, so I watched the game. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yarr.
No, I just get the fuck out of here, Lincoln Riley.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the favorite to win the Pac-12 gave up 28 points to Mountain West San Jose State.
It's making me regret that pick from last week talking with Connor already. I know it's an overreaction. It's only week 0, but good God.
Well, here's the wildest thing. They showed that 6'7" inside linebacker that I love to talk about all the time. Dude lost weight this offseason.
Yeah, you lose weight to play on the inside. That makes a lot of sense.
So,
okay.
San Jose State had 2 long touchdowns on the first-string defense. 3 total touchdowns on the first-string defense, 2 long touchdowns. And by long, I mean more than 28 yards. And San Jose State's quarterback went 21-38, had 3 touchdown passes, and San Jose State had a running back get 108 yards on 6 carries.
That's pretty good.
That is very good for San Jose State. But for a team that loves to whine about, we didn't get the benefit of the doubt, this is why.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is why no one believes in Lincoln Riley outside of Colorado and mainstream sports media. I don't understand it in any way, shape, or form. In the first quarter, San Jose State quarterback scrambled untouched 28 yards to convert on a 3rd and 22.
And he could have got more than that. That was like the first play I think I turned on when I thought about looking for the game.
Yeah, so you put this in here, but if Bear Alexander is correct, Georgia could be in for a long season if Georgia and USC had the same level of physicality. Also, just going to throw him under the bus for some shit he said recently. I don't know what he can't trust about what he was told about the University of Georgia, considering they had an entire defensive line drafted in the first round over the last 2 seasons. They won back-to-back national championships. And, the dude played half of the Peach Bowl, most of the national championship game. Like, you're a freshman. You're not going to play every snap in a team full of 5 stars on defense. So I'm not sure what he was told and why he said he can't trust anybody. But you know who you can't trust? Lincoln Riley saying he's going to field the defense.
I wonder if he got like he was thinking about, or like he thought he heard something about being promised a spot, but as we know, the last 8 years is like nothing is promised, even to the number one recruit in the country or whatever coming in. So I don't know why he would think he's any different.
Yeah, and Kirby has said, and this could absolutely be coach speak. Kirby has said on multiple occasions he does not promise starting spots to anybody. What he promises is the opportunity for competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it to an extent. If you have the potential for big NIL money wanting to go to LA, but if you're going to college to play on a good team and win championships, Lincoln Riley is not the head coach you want. And if you guys are not out on USC strictly because of their defense or total lack thereof at this point, what are you doing?
I mean, it really it's unbelievable how I got duped into it. I'm just hoping that they end up outscoring everybody like I kind of had talked about last week. But even at that point, I mean, if you're putting up, I guess they're going to put up 38 points this game, but they're going to have to score 50 a game if they want to even sniff the playoff. Offense is good enough to get them there, but are they going to win a game in the playoff? No, not a chance. I don't think anybody would pick that.
It's one of those things of where the whole quote, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Mm.
Like, if you are picking Lincoln Riley's team to make the playoff, or expecting them to field a defense, or expecting them to compete with teams that can field a defense, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not specifically talking to you because the Pac-12 is fairly weak, so for them to make the conference championship game is not out of the question. Like, you see them all the time in playoff projections, and the question is why? What have they shown you for you to think, yeah, a team that gave up 28 points to San Jose State's definitely going to make the playoff this year?
It's just the colors. That's all it is. It's just easy. It's been too long since they've been there. People are ready for them to be back. They think about Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and all that.
Don't be
it's
wrong.
Why USC to be good.
They're going to make the playoff in 2024. No doubt about it. There's 12 teams that make it, and I highly doubt that USC will be out of the top 12.
It's gonna be tough. I mean, especially if this would have happened, if they would have went to the 12-team playoff this year, for sure they would have got in, no problem. But even being in the Big Ten, they might be the fourth best team at best next year. I don't know.
Unless Lincoln Riley does a Deion Sanders like turnaround on that defense of just like, come here, you'll play for every good player on defense in the transfer portal, and gets rid of his defensive coordinator. I believe his name's Alex Grinch. Like that.
Nice.
Is it Alex Grinch?
I don't know. I'm not sure. That's hilarious. Stolen playoff chances.
Whoever Lincoln Riley's defensive coordinator is he is the defensive version of Iowa's offensive coordinator.
You know what they should do? Just say fuck it. Go out. I'm sure Todd Grantham isn't doing anything worth a damn. Just make. If you're gonna be bad, go all the way.
If you're gonna be bad, get some sacks and interceptions to go along with it, right?
Yeah, make it a little bit exciting on that side of the ball. I mean, you go cover zero and just all out blitz and just get beat all the time. But they'll get home every once in a while.
All right, so I think we're going to move on.
It is Alex Grinch, you're right.
Okay, yeah. Alex Grinch is Ferentz Jr. on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
I do think we're going to go ahead and move on because I could roast USC forever and people that believe in USC forever just because Lincoln Riley refuses to play a defensive side of the ball, and that just kind of is what it is. But we're going to go on to Navy versus Notre Dame, the game in Dublin. Just off the top, one of the weird things that I saw for this game was it was a partially open air stadium. Like, not all of the field was open, and it was raining for the entire game. So, like, 3/4 of the field was getting
weird. Considering that, whether you're in the, the UK or Ireland, like where, it rains just as much as it does in, say, like somewhere like Seattle, which also has a partially, covered stadium. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, but they're normally playing soccer there, which I as an ignorant American, I'm not sure, but I don't believe the rain has as much of an effect on soccer as it does football, because you're not tackling people or gripping the ball with your hand to throw it.
Yeah.
So I can kind of get it for that. It's just still weird.
Yeah.
So I will say that this game was my first miss of the season. I did say the USC game over and was correct on that. I personally won money on that. I want to say I said Navy would cover the 20.5 because most of their games have been close. Don't exactly remember. We're going to start keeping up with our bets as of next week. But regardless, Notre Dame pushed Navy around on both sides of the line of scrimmage, which is something they did not do for most of last season. Navy had 2 different running backs with touchdowns on the day. Sam Hartman had an efficient day. It wasn't necessarily what we had come to expect with his time at Wake Forest, being prolific every time the ball was in his hands. But he had a good day. The Irish.
He had 4 touchdown passes.
Yeah. He didn't have a ton of yards. He didn't have a lot of long passes. But he had 4 touchdowns. He had a good completion percentage. He had, I want to say, 250 yards passing or something, which is like 100 less than his average at Wake Forest. But it's an entirely different offense than we're used to seeing him play in. But I do think this new offense is going to help him when it comes to the draft this year. I think he's going to shoot up draft boards showing that he can play in this style of offense, because we've all known he's a good quarterback, but a lot of time air raid quarterbacks don't do extremely well in the NFL. One thing that really disappointed me about Navy is that they had a change from top to bottom of the coaching staff and still ran the triple option. They attempted six
maybe
passes.
They're scared. Sorry.
No, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
Oh, I said maybe they're going to let Army figure it out and just test the waters a little bit first with them going to it. What kind of offense is Army going to? Are they? I mean, it's definitely not an air raid, but is it more of a spread?
I think it's more of a spread, potentially air raid. I haven't done near as much research as I should have on it.
That would be wild to see how different that's going to be. I mean, I'm kind of excited to check in on them, but
yes,
they should have did something differently. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, for Navy to change coaching staff top to bottom, and a big part of that is they've lost to Army in that game for most of the last 5 years. But to change coaching staff from top to bottom and run the exact same plays, it's so disappointing. Y'all know by now I have a soft spot for service academies, including Navy, even though they're trash. But damn! Why?
I was hoping that would be close. I mean, that was the first game that was on TV. So hoping for the best, and then it was just complete blowout.
Do better, Navy.
Yeah, do better.
Oh, the thing we've done for the ever isn't working. Let's fire our coach and do something different. Oh, no, let's fire our coach and do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like, why? Go ahead.
No, so it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I frustrated beyond belief. And so this game wasn't as visually entertaining as we had hoped, with the exception that it was the first college football game of the season on television.
Mhm.
But I do think it shows that Notre Dame is actually going to be a good team this year, leaving behind the close games of last season. Because last season, this was a one-possession win for Navy, 35-32, or Notre Dame, 35-32 over Navy. Obviously, they lost to Marshall. They had a close game early in the season to another bad team, and then, I truly think that this is kind of turning the page for them. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. It's an exciting time for Irish fans. The problem is, until you join a conference, you're not going to be taken seriously unless everybody else is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put this one in here, so I'll let you go ahead with this.
Yeah. So one comment, especially for those of us that paid attention or pay attention to NFL quite a bit. The commentator for the game, I think he was doing color, was Jason Garrett, former Cowboys head coach. Serial just hand clapper. That's really all he did on the sideline, just doing that over and over. No real actual coaching. Is more of a cheerleader. But I think I don't remember what quarter it was in, but Notre Dame was up by at least 2 scores, maybe 3 at this point. I think it was like 21-0 at that point. But on 3rd and short, Jason Garrett had the balls to say, "I think Navy's going to run it here." Jesus fucking Christ! You think Navy's going to run the ball in the triple option offense? You really going out on a limb there. And just because he went to Princeton does not mean he's smart.
No, absolutely not. If he were that smart, he would have realized at some point that running the same offense he did year after year in the NFL wasn't working. If he was that intelligent, he would have realized that a lot of his draft picks were trash. And I do understand, as a head coach in the NFL for the Cowboys, you are just a figurehead, and Jerry Jones is the actual head coach of the team because, like Arthur Blank, he refuses to leave the team alone, which is one of the reasons that neither of them has sniffed success in quite a long time. Jason Garrett, disappear for a few years. Let us forget how terrible you are. I
think they're going to end up putting him on the Big Ten games, like the really bad ones that are just on Peacock, because he's not their 1A like commentating team.
Good.
Hopefully,
I'm okay with that.
They tucked him away there.
Yeah, put him on Indiana Northwestern. That'll be solid for him and the 10 people watching.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to go Hawaii, Vandy? I think we actually have a good bit of actual game talk on this one.
Yeah.
So, first take is Hawaii is going to severely miss Ray Davis and Mike Wright this season. And I understand that Mike Wright was not that great of a passer, but what he did give you was, the play's breaking down, I'm just going to run for 30 yards.
Yeah.
And that's something that a team like Vandy, I think, needs. Second takeaway is Hawaii is going to be much better than they were in that 2022 season. They went 3-9 last season, and God, was I drunk when I wrote this? And if they play their Mountain West games as well as they played against Vandy last night, I think 5 wins is going to be a for sure thing, maybe 6. And Stanford may be on upset alert here in the next couple of weeks.
I had talked about it at the bottom because I didn't realize you had that right there. But they looked way more comfortable running the run and shoot offense compared to this time last year with Timmy Chang. They looked like, again, they got more comfortable throughout the season, but they seemed a lot better off this year than they did even in the first half of last season. Like you said, their win total, Hawaii's win total is still 3.5. And again, I think I talked about this earlier, but they do play 13 games. I don't know if that's gone up or down. I think they probably kept it the same afterward. But winning 4 games, playing as well as they did against, granted the worst, probably more than likely the worst SEC team in the league, gives you any Hawaii fans hope that they'll be able to win at least 4 games.
Jumping ahead, I'm going to go ahead and say Hawaii over 4 wins is one of my favorite bets of the season.
Yeah, there we go.
Because we'll go ahead and get into it. They may have struggled in the run game significantly, never got anything going. But Braden Schrager, 77.1% completion percentage on 35 attempts and 351 yards and 3 touchdowns on the day. He did throw 2 interceptions. One of the ones I saw, because I was flipping between games, but one of the ones that I saw was 100% a tip pass that was intercepted. So I don't think tip passes that are intercepted should count towards a quarterback, but is what it is. But this guy should throw it back to our Puncher's Chance series. Should be able to tear up some Mountain West defenses this year. I have a lot of confidence in what he's going to be able to do now that he's comfortable in that offense.
And I mean, keep this in mind too. So there's a weather delay in Nashville, and also, and I don't know how much you looked into it with. I know everyone saw the pictures of the Vanderbilt Stadium getting remodeled and everything. How they have the scoreboard hanging from cranes and all that. They don't have a visitor's locker room. They got changed in tents, and he still threw for 351 yards and 3 touchdowns.
They got dressed in tents, and there was a lightning delay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they were in tents or in one of the, maybe they just walked inside of one of the concourses of the stadium. I don't really know.
Well, it wasn't like there was that many people there, so they could have very well just got changed by the popcorn stand or whatever, and nobody would have noticed.
That's fair. What he was able to do with that offense and really only had 2 receivers to throw to was great. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
For the Vandy side of things, A.J. Swan had a 63.3% completion percentage on 30 attempts, thrown for 258 yards and 3 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. But they also struggled very much to get the ground game going. Will Shepard,
yes,
their wide receiver, is going to be very good this year.
Stud.
I will go ahead and say Will Shepard is probably going to be a better receiver than, maybe not statistically, but if you actually watch the way they play, I think Will Shepard is better than anybody Florida has on their team.
I don't think that's that far out there, yeah.
I will say the most difficult thing about trying to like this Vandy team this year is their O-line gave up 3 sacks against Hawaii and could not get the run game going against Hawaii.
Not a good sign.
Not great.
No, not ideal.
Especially when you play in the SEC. You want your offensive line to look very good against bad teams. Or perceived bad teams. You never know how a team's going to play at week 12 when they're in week 0. But not looking great for Vandy's offensive line. Defensive line looked good enough to keep Hawaii's ground game pretty much shut out throughout the game. But I will say, if it were not for Vandy getting a kick return touchdown, this game would have gone into overtime because Vanderbilt was still trying to score at the end of the game and just couldn't. So
it might be a long season for them.
Yeah, I'm glad that I have not posted our helmet schedules just yet. I was planning on doing that probably tomorrow. I may change 1 or 2 of my Vandy picks after how poorly they played.
I don't think I had them hitting the over, so I think I'm good with it.
I think before I had them winning 5 games.
See, I don't know. Wake Forest is going to be tough. Alabama. I don't know. We're not going to get into the whole Vandy schedule. No one wants to listen to that. But it's going to be tough to find those 5 for sure.
Yes. No, and I want to say their win total. I didn't look it up. I think it's
3.5.
I was about to say 3.5. Maybe they still hit 3.5. I mean, they're 1-0 right now, and they have a few easy games coming up. But I think it's going to be tough.
If it is 3.5, they could be over by the middle of September, but it's tough.
Yes.
At Wake Forest, at UNLV, then getting into the SEC schedule. It's going to be better hope to do it by September 16th, or else it ain't going to happen.
We said that last year, but they did beat Kentucky and Florida.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's in Florida, but Kentucky is at home. And I still got into the schedule. Damn it, I said I wasn't going to do it. All right, closing that out. There we go.
All right, so that was kind of all we thought was interesting enough to talk about from week 0, because there was a lot of not very entertaining games that were played.
Ooh, Rich Rodriguez got the first FBS win for Jacksonville State in their program history. So shout out Rich Rod.
Shout out Rich Rod. If you can't do something right at the first 20 programs you go to, maybe the 21st is it.
I've always said he's a program builder.
And, he's a builder and destroyer. Either way you want to look at it.
Yep.
So, we're going to go into our best season-long bets, and that's going to be national championship, season over-unders, conference title odds, all that fun stuff. So, until we get to season win totals, all these are going to be off of my bookie. Just throwing that out there. But I personally do not vote or do not place money on preseason Heisman odds because it's a crapshoot until November. So I don't do it. If you guys want me to talk about it, let us know and we can attempt to throw some stuff in here. Just throwing a little shade at Florida early here. Graham Mertz's first game of his career threw for 5 touchdowns and looked like he was a potential Heisman contender.
September Heisman.
Hendon Hooker won the October Heisman this past year. Maybe we'll talk about it when November rolls around.
Sounds good.
So, national title odds are interesting to me this year. Obviously, we know Georgia has the best odds. We've talked about it a few times. They are currently at plus 216, which has actually gone down slightly from the plus 230 it was a few weeks ago. I think that's pretty interesting considering who the next few teams are.
Before you get into that, I think there was a prop with Caesars. I think I saw on ESPN that said, I think a few days ago it had Georgia at plus 230 or literally anybody else at, I think, minus 300. So the field.
Georgia plus 230, 130 teams minus 300.
Yeah. Yep.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. It's the golden era.
Yeah, appreciate it now, guys. For real. Because if you're anywhere close to our ages or older, we've seen some dark times.
For sure.
So, right behind Georgia in the national title odds is Alabama at plus 560, which I think is absolutely the worst bet if you're going to ask me. And if you're listening to us, you are asking me. But by now you guys know that I have absolutely no faith in the Alabama team this year due to their lack of proven talent, especially since they named Jalen Milroe as the starter for week 1, which, this is a guy that almost allowed a 5-7 A&M team to beat them, and if Jimbo could call plays, they would have beaten Alabama last year.
He's probably the taller, bigger, wish version of Jalen Hurts that has no passing ability.
Except Jalen Hurts went to the Heisman ceremony in 2019 when he got put in a different offense.
Lincoln Riley got him there.
If Jalen Milroe was put on USC's team, you know what position he would play? Tight end, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Lincoln Riley's not putting Jalen Milroe at quarterback. And to be clear, I have absolutely no doubt that Nick Saban will coach this team to more wins than they should have. Based on everything they have coming back, because you have Jalen Milroe at least starting the season at quarterback. Their best wide receiver is a guy named Jermaine Burton who left Georgia because of lack of targets and playing time because he couldn't get open. They have Jace McClellan at running back, who is more of a wide receiver out of the backfield than he is a power running back, and considering Alabama wants to go back to running the ball more, that doesn't seem like a good fit to me. And then they have an overhyped secondary that, you know, if you're asking me, Kool-Aid McKinstry's half as good as most of the mainstream sports media would have you believe.
Thank you.
And they are starting a true freshman opposite him at corner this year who is just going to get bullied. So, with that being said, I've got Alabama much closer to 9 wins than actually winning a national title, let alone a conference.
I think we're kind of both in the same boat, thinking that they're more likely to be second or third in the SEC West than actually winning the division.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not, yeah.
You know, if Jalen Milroe comes out next week and throws for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, I might look into buying some Alabama stock.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where you're going to have to prove me wrong before I consider it.
Yeah, there has to be something more there than just almost choking away against A&M at home.
Yeah. And where the only reason A&M lost that game is because Alabama's defense knew that they were going to throw the potential touchdown to Evan Stewart because Jimbo literally ran down the field yelling, "Throw it to Evan."
And just that, and he had, 2 or 3 chances at it too, and still fucked up.
Yeah. Thanks, Jimbo.
Yeah, thanks, Jimbo.
So, what I think is really interesting is that in third place for national title odds in the preseason is Ohio State, who comes in over Michigan. Ohio State is plus 680 and Michigan is plus 860. And I personally think it's a joke that Ohio State lost their Heisman contender quarterback last season and is coming off back-to-back losses against Michigan, not making their conference title game, blowing a late 3-possession lead against Georgia in the Peach Bowl, and are currently third favorites to win the national title this year, while Michigan, who is plus 860, is returning everyone.
Especially on offense. Everyone.
Quarterback, running back, wide receivers, most of the offensive line.
Secondary. Linebacker. It's again, quite literally anybody worth a damn. Well, not everybody, but mostly everybody that's worth a damn is back.
And I will say, odds are influenced by who people are putting their money on. So, Alabama at 560 is because a lot of people are putting their money on Alabama. Ohio State at 680 is because a lot of people are putting their money on Ohio State.
Well, with Michigan, there's a shit ton of alumni and like Walmart Michigan fans out there, like me, that I would think that Michigan number would be, not 860. That's
insane.
Disrespect.
Yeah, no, I was literally just about to say, but it blows my mind that more people are not putting money on Michigan.
Yeah. Damn, 860. Shoot.
860. To me, that's disrespectful, and, depending on if Jimbo coaches games early in the season, I still don't know what the verdict is on that. I really think that their national title odds should just be on a bulletin board. Take down the beat Georgia sign, because you're not doing that anytime soon with the way that your team acts, and put up the national title odds. Be like, Georgia, Alabama, who's returning nobody, they're bottom 10% of the country in returning production.
Ohio State. Ohio State that you beat the shit out of twice.
Yeah, their house and your house, back-to-back years, beat the shit out of them. They're favored above you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, lose these people some money.
Please.
So, conference title odds. A couple interesting ones here. Obviously, Georgia is the favorite to win the SEC this year. They're actually minus money. I think it's minus 2 something. So you'd have to put.
Oh.
Yeah, you'd have to put like $2 and some change in to win $1. To me, that's just not
worth it.
Yeah. So we'll get past that. Next is Alabama, then LSU. So, if you're real high on LSU, you have money to make there. But as a Georgia podcast, I'm high on LSU, but I'm not cracked out on the streets of San Francisco high on LSU.
Shitting on everyone. Anyway, man, okay.
So, for the Pac-12, a couple interesting things here. You can get plus 310 odds on Washington, and I think I explained this last year, but plus and minus is, for plus 310, if you bet $1, you would win $3.10. If they're minus 310, you would have to bet $3.10 to win $1. So, just a quick down and dirty explanation of what actually odds mean here. But Washington is plus 310 to win the conference, which may get you some money. I may put a little bit on Washington just because of how high I am on them this year. If you like Oregon, they also come in at plus 310 odds. If you want to base it on the last couple of years, Utah comes in at plus 510 odds, which is wild considering that they won the last two Pac-12 titles. And if you hate defense and love losing money, USC has plus 206 odds.
Yeah, that Washington one seems good, but hell, damn. Pac-12 is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's a shame that Pac-12 After Dark is done after this year.
Yes. No, this is going to be a good final year of Pac-12 After Dark. Personally, for the Pac-12, Washington is probably going to get a little bit of my money for their odds. I may put a tiny little baby bet on Utah just because of the history they have there. I am in no way, shape, or form putting any money on USC.
Especially after what we saw yesterday. Good Lord.
Correct. And I actually got these odds at about 4 o'clock this afternoon. So
so it probably got worse.
Yes.
Or they got
these had
longer
been
rounds now.
Adjusted from the games we saw yesterday. The Big 12, Texas is minus odds favorite, so you would have to bet. Correct. You would have to. I think they're minus 126. So you'd have to bet $1.26 to, or no, they're minus 101. So you'd have to bet $1 and a penny to win $1. That's just under even. So, your choice there. I don't really have much that I'm not putting money on Texas to win the Big 12 this year.
No.
The other picks we had to play in the Big 12 title game, Texas Tech at plus 990.
Wait, that's just to play in the title game? Not even to win it?
No, that's to win it. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I thought we froze for a second. No. This is to win the game.
Okay.
So Texas Tech is plus 990 and Oklahoma is plus 350 to win. But if you want to go based off of last year and a team that Connor talked about last week, he thinks a lot of people are sleeping on, Kansas State is plus 500. They actually come in at third to win the conference this year.
How was Oklahoma second though? Like after what they went 6-7 last year. I think we talked about it last week. Are we sure that Skeletor is that good of a head coach?
It's the name.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's the same thing. That crimson color, man.
Same thing that gets USC all the money. Same thing gets Alabama all the money. Same thing gets Ohio State all the money. It's, there's a name out there, and people that don't necessarily pay as close of attention love to put money on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's a reason why they have, all these casinos and all, a big old fucking eye in the middle of the desert.
Yeah. They don't build billion-dollar casinos in the desert for no reason.
Right. Yep.
For the Big 12, while I like the odds on Oklahoma, I still think Texas is probably going to win, and because of that, I'm probably not putting any money on them. The Big 12 is one of those conferences where I have such little confidence in anything working like it should that I rarely bet on their games unless it is a parlay money line where it's like Oklahoma's playing Louisiana Monroe or something.
It's like it's a more talented like Maction type shit. Like nothing goes as it should. Yes. It's fun.
Yes.
But I would put a little bit on Texas Tech. Fuck it. I mean, they're my my bandwagon team, so why not? Plus 990. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, dude. If you if you put $100 on Texas Tech and they win the conference, you're getting $990.
It might be worth it. Maybe.
Might be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So the ACC is extremely top heavy this season. Clemson is plus 154, meaning if you bet $1, you win $1.54. And Florida State is plus 166. The next closest team to Clemson and Florida State, UNC at plus 1,075.
To think that we almost both went with UNC to make the ACC championship game before Connor verified that.
And it honestly, little inside the park baseball here, when he said he had to look it up too, it made me feel a lot less dumb.
Because I wasn't even so sure about it. I'm like, I thought I did, but maybe not. Maybe I was thinking for next year or for 2024. So I wasn't positive about it either.
Yes, I thought I'd read it, and then I couldn't find it when I attempted to look it up, so I just went with the normal division stuff. And to be fair, Google still has ACC standings in divisions. Mm-hmm. So, just throwing that out there makes me feel a little less stupid.
Google needs to be better.
Yes. You're a multi-billion-dollar. You have a GDP higher than half the countries in the world. You can do better.
Probably more than that. Shit.
But yeah, so the ACC, big if here, I was going to put money on a team to win a conference. I would say Florida State. As far as the ACC goes. But, I said it last week, we're going to try and be a little bit more obvious with who we're actually putting our money on. I will probably put a little bit of money on Washington just because of the confidence I have in them this season. That's probably it. Just because I need some pretty good odds to actually put season-long bets on. So that's
the only season win total I put a bet on last year was Florida on the under. I was so happy when it hit. Exhilarating when they lost to Florida State.
In a game that Florida State should have beat the shit out of them in too.
Mm-hmm. They almost choked away. That's why I'm not. I keep going back to that. That's why I'm not super confident in Florida State. Not against LSU. Not to win the ACC. None of that. Like just because they could have very well been 8-4 last year.
Yeah. I just, I know I didn't talk a lot about it last week, but for Florida State, they have one of the better potential defensive lines. They have good skill talent on the offensive side of the ball. I think they finally put it together as a team mentality. So I still think Florida State's going to win the ACC this year, and based on Clemson's performance in the Shane Beamer's favorite child bowl, give me Florida State over Clemson. Maybe not when they play at Clemson, but the second time around,
Yeah.
I'm taking Florida State.
I don't know. I'm just a Garrett Riley believer. I mean, he's not the head coach. I don't, again, don't necessarily trust Riley as a head coach, but going outside the program, going outside the cult to get some like fresh perspective and ideas in there is going to be good for that program. I think I mentioned it last week too. Dabo's not an X's and O's guy. He's again a CEO of a mega church. Just kind of running the business, running all that. Not really, just more of the face of the program than anything. Garrett Riley's going to help out significantly with that because they're still talented. But I don't know. I feel more comfortable with Clemson than I do Florida State.
I just question how much Dabo is actually going to allow someone to control half of his team.
He better if he want. Well, I mean, he's not going to get fired because without him, Clemson's nothing. But
yeah, I just have little to no faith in Dabo at this point. It's more.
Yeah. I'm not. I mean, honestly, I'm not super comfortable with either of them. But if I had to pick, it would still be Clemson, I guess.
A lot of my picks last week were who do I have the least amount of faith in instead of the most amount of faith in. And
yeah.
And Dabo lost it for me when he kept trying to make DJ Uiagalelei a thing.
Ooh, nice.
He lost the faith when he said that they weren't going to go into the transfer portal, and then he lost even more when he said that, and a week later got somebody out of the transfer portal. Prove me wrong. I would be glad for you to prove me wrong, especially consider Clemson and Georgia have a home-and-home series coming up over the next few years.
Mm-hmm.
I
think they play next year in Atlanta, right?
Yes. And then 25 and 27 or 26 and 27, it's a home-and-home. Please prove me wrong.
Yeah.
But until proven otherwise, that's just kind of where I'm at. Just
Yeah, that's the ACC in general.
That's fair. It's like the Pac-12, but less offense.
Yeah, offensive.
So, season over/under win totals. This is one of the parts of doing this episode that I actually had a lot of fun with. All these are off of FanDuel because MyBookie, I couldn't find them this year. Maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I wanted to put some with MyBookie. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Love for y'all to be a sponsor. Shoot.
Oh, dude, I took some money from MyBookie with my season win total over/unders last year.
That's why they don't do it. You made them broke.
I put 6 season over/unders. I put 6 bets in last year and won 5 of them.
Woo!
Mississippi State fucked me. Mississippi State pushed is why they fucked me.
Oh man. Yeah, they make it difficult now.
Yes. So Wisconsin, they're my top one that I have right now. Their season win total is set at 8.5.
I think it used to be at 9, so it came down a little bit too.
If it came down, once again, ding, 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 star this one. I think their floor, if they have little to no injuries this year, is 9 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Hammer the over on Wisconsin's 8.5 win total. In my opinion, I think they have a potential of 10 wins, maybe 11, depending on how they play. If they play to their full potential, I can see them winning 11 games. I don't see them beating Ohio State. But I see like a floor of 9. And
so you're that big of a believer in the Dairy Raid?
I'm that big of a believer in Tanner Mordecai and their skill talent.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin has perennially had a top 10 defense. That's not much of a question. But Tanner Mordecai and their skill position talent has me seeing 9 wins minimum.
I like it.
So, Florida State, I know we talked about them a second ago. I know Mike's not as high on Florida State as I am. But I think they only have really 2 losable games on the regular season schedule. And that's not saying they will lose them. I'm saying that is the closest they have to potential to a losing those games. The difficulty is their season win total is set at 9.5. So if they underperform in those games, you have a half game buffer, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
It's probably not one that I will put money on, but I have a feeling that I will regret not putting money on it at the end of the year.
If they go under that, like let's say like 7 wins, like are they going to get rid of their coach? Or are they going to get rid of Norvell?
I think they're going to take a real hard look at it.
Yeah, I mean he's put together a great recruiting class for 24 thus far, but
he put together a great recruiting class last year. He got a ton of transfers in. He's got the coordinators he wants. He has the facilities. He has the recruiting budget. They just got to be shown on the field for an entire season that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So, Kentucky. I will say Kentucky is one of the sketchier ones on my list. And that's just because they have a over-under at 7.5. I think Kentucky has a ceiling of 10-2, but I also think they have a floor of 6-6. And the problem is the offensive line. I think Kentucky checks the box at every single position group that you can find outside of the offensive line. So if they are better this year, hammer the over 7.5. But if their offensive line is not better this year, they're not winning 7 games. The SEC is too good. Even, this is a little bit of Florida love here, even with Florida having little to no skill talent at the quarterback position, their defensive front 7 is still pretty good.
Yeah.
And if they can get home to the quarterback, don't even try.
It will be interesting, like you said, like the Kentucky skill position guys are maybe the best that Mark Stoops has had in his time there, which is really saying something. With we talked about Ray Davis a lot last week, but and it's just odd that the question marks are on either line. So yeah, that's like you said, like 10-2, very realistic, but 6-6. Same thing. I mean, I don't think either of us would be shocked if either of those outcomes happen.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not putting money on Kentucky, but I do think it's interesting. And if I still have the option to make this bet after the first couple of weeks of the season and the offensive line is performing well, I might do it.
I mean, they always play a pretty shitty out-of-conference schedule, and that includes Louisville, which it probably is going to be bad this year under Jeff Brom, it being his first year. But yeah, it's so tough. I wouldn't touch that. It's just too volatile. The deviation between floor and ceiling is way too high for me.
Yes. No, I agree. And when I do season win totals, I count definite wins and maybe wins. And if I need definite wins to be right at the number and to feel good about some, like I need to have 2 or 3 maybe wins that I feel really good about to push me over the edge.
Yeah.
All right, so I was about to say, these next couple are yours, so I'll let you take it.
So first, I'm going to hammer Florida. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to go with Ole Miss here.
Maybe.
What's that?
Hammer their under, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted me money last year, like I was talking about, but no, I'm not going to touch that. I think it's 5.5 for Florida. And this is, for the record, this is not my pick, but I wouldn't touch that either, but I could see them going under.
I think 5.5 is perfect for that team.
Like the question is, like, do you think that Florida can go to a bowl game? And that is how far they've fallen since Urban Meyer and Tebow and all them were there. So even Jim McElwain winning back-to-back East titles, but okay. All right, but anyway, all right. So my first pick, Ole Miss over 7.5. The odds are minus 114 for that. So it's pretty much even, over under for them. Even if they lose against Bama, LSU, Georgia, and Tulane, they're going to win the rest of their games, in my opinion. That'll still get them to 8 wins. But if you listen last week and even the week before, like I'm freebasing Ole Miss. Like I'm thinking that they definitely steal one against one or both LSU and Bama. I think definitely one of them for sure, and probably not going to beat Georgia because it is in Athens, of course. But again, with all that put together, and then Tulane is going to be a really interesting game. 7.5 is really low. And they were my pick to make it to the SEC championship. So for that to work out, they have to get over 7.5 wins. So Ole Miss, my first one.
I like it a lot. Like, star this one for I'm probably putting money on it. And one of the reasons that I have even more confidence in this one is that their backup quarterback situation is potentially the best in the country. Like, oh no, Jackson Dart went down. We have Will Howard and Spencer Sanders waiting on the bench for their number to get called.
Yeah. They play Georgia Tech, their East crossover game besides Georgia's Vanderbilt, as it typically is. So like it's very, very doable. If they get under 7.5, then again you have to look at, is Lane right, for this? Because if not now, again, when? I don't know. All right. So next up, again, my other bandwagon team, because I couldn't talk about Ole Miss, is Texas Tech, and their over is 7.5. And I didn't write down the odds for that, but I think it's even either way. But they're like I mentioned a lot before, especially the last 2 weeks. They have a really fun schedule and a great offense over there in Lubbock. Jesus, they don't have a particularly tough stretch on the schedule. I mean, they kind of alternate games between, games they should win and toss-ups. I mean, they don't really have a stretch of death or a group of death, kind of like talking about like World Cup type stuff there. But like I said, they don't have a really rough stretch really, and they finished the season against Texas, but they also don't play Oklahoma, which is going to be big for them. I don't know. That's my next team. Never mind. But 7.5 with as high as I am on Texas Tech, with their fun schedule, and then again not having a super tough stretch, like I would definitely put a little bit on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Over 7.5, I think is an easy bet just because of how much they return, and how good the offense is, and they do have a very favorable schedule, at least the way that it lines up. Like, they never have back-to-back tough games.
I believe too that I think they go to West Virginia, which West Virginia might go winless. They're not a good team. They're going to fire Mike Brown or their coach, Brown, whatever. But it's just, I think they play at Houston too, and Houston's probably going to fire their coach. So it's very, very favorable for Texas Tech. All right, so then my last official one, and I have one other one I'll kind of throw in there at the end, is Oklahoma State over 6.5 wins. All right, so it obviously didn't go very well for Oklahoma State last year, but since Mike Gundy started as a head coach in 2005, his team has won at least 7 games every year. So 2005, I think it was 4-8. Every year after that is at least 7 wins, and really flirting with double-digit wins pretty much every year. His first year, like I said, at Oklahoma State, he won 4 games. Their out-of-conference schedule is atrocious, but again, keep in mind they did lose at home against Central Michigan chips, fire up chips, a couple years ago. So it's not out of the question that they choke that shit away. But out of conference is bad. They don't play Texas, they don't play TCU, and they don't play Texas Tech. They do play Oklahoma, but realistically, they're only like really tough game in conference is Oklahoma. And again, I know you're higher on Oklahoma than I am, but I'm really thinking that Oklahoma State's going to have a good bounce back year, even without having Spencer Sanders there. So, like I said, home games are all winnable, and they host Oklahoma in Stillwater in the final edition of Bedlam. And this is actually my favorite bet of anything that we've talked about. So I would like lock this to fuck in right now. Do it.
I'm here for it. As much as I have questions about that team, Oklahoma State is still one of my favorite teams to watch week in, week out, as long as there's not like a big SEC game on. There are a lot of times on at noon for whatever reason it is. But Mike Gundy's offense is always great to watch. Doesn't matter who's throwing the ball. Doesn't matter who's catching the ball. But it's always a ton of fun. I do have an honorable mention.
Sweet.
And that's my bandwagon team.
Yeah, let's go.
The over-under is 9.5. Right? They have 9 for sure, 100%, no questions asked wins.
Who's your bandwagon team again?
Washington.
That's right. Okay.
The 3 question marks: Oregon at home, at USC, and Utah at home. I like the USC matchup to call it 10. Just because USC doesn't play defense and against Michael Penix and an air raid offense. I don't have much of a question about that, but 8 weeks into the season, we'll see where that is.
But point wise, hammer that over right now.
Yes, absolutely. Whatever.
If it were open,
the over could be 95. I'm still taking it. Utah plays really good defense most of the time. We saw that last year when they beat USC in the Pac-12 championship game. Only gave up 23 points to the Heisman-winning quarterback Caleb Williams for USC. Utah is the biggest question mark. Oregon gave up a lot of points. They don't have as much returning as Washington does. And they don't have Kenny Dillingham. I may change my tune when we get to week 6 or 5. That's week 6. I went to Georgia Public Schools. I don't count well. When we get
I can attest to that. Never mind.
When we get to week 6, I may have a different tune. But I think 11-2 is not, or 11-1 is not out of the question for Washington this year, especially with Oregon coming to Washington to play that game.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
So we'll go ahead and say Washington is another good one at 9.5.
Yeah, there we go. I like that. One other thing before I throw in my honorable mention about Oklahoma State. I think I missed this because I started talking and then didn't actually read the outline. So it talked about they don't play Texas, TCU, or Texas Tech. They play at Iowa State week 4, which, again, playing names usually is difficult, but they're going to be dealing with the suspension stuff at that point, I would assume, especially, if they're this is kind of the first real instance of dealing with kind of gambling, at least in the college football, landscape as we know it now, with it being readily available pretty much everywhere. So Iowa State's not going to be, they weren't going to be good anyway this year, but they'll probably be even worse. And they go to, like I talked about, they do go to West Virginia and Houston. So their away games in conference are just atrocious. Iowa State, West Virginia, and Houston. So again, I would hammer the shit out of this over for them. But last thing before we get to Florida, Utah, my honorable mention, just because I think we did all overs between the two of us. An under that I really like is UNC under 8.5. Vegas seems to expect it because they put it the odds at -150,
Oh,
so they think it's way more likely than the over, which is at +122. Obviously, Drake May is awesome. It's fun to watch. He's going into his sophomore year. I mean, he's going to be a Heisman contender this year, next year, and so on. But the defense makes USC's defense look elite. Sorry, Gene, but it's not looking great for them. And the schedule is fucking brutal. So of course, they start the season against South Carolina in Charlotte, App State, known giant killers, of course. Last year with Texas A&M, and some other team I won't mention. But and they also play Minnesota, which Minnesota, I mean, is a pretty mid program anyway, but it's better than at least half of the ACC. So that could be a tough game. I think it is in Chapel Hill, though. But they also go to Pittsburgh, go to Clemson, and go to NC State in ACC play. So 8.5. Vegas thinks it's more likely that they're going to go under. I would go under as well, just for if anyone is uncomfortable with doing all these overs. There's an under for you.
There you go. I really like that one, too. Yeah. It is kind of odd they're having a game with Minnesota. I guess it's two kind of mid teams from two big conferences, but still kind of odd.
Yeah.
So at the end here, we are going to do a little bit of Florida-Utah talk just to kind of get the ball rolling for our preview or our watch party on Thursday. Just kind of get some numbers out of the way. So Florida's returning 54% of their production from last season, coming in at 107th in the country. Utah, on the other hand, is 16th in the country with 76% of their production coming back this season. Graham Mertz is starting under center for Florida and brings in 5,405 career passing yards. This is 3 full seasons as a starter, by the way. 38 touchdowns and 26 interceptions. He also adds -21 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns on the ground. While on Utah's side of the ball, Cam Rising may or may not play into this game just because he tore his ACL in the bowl game. But because he's a tough motherfucker and a baller, we're going to say that Cam Rising is playing in this game. Because as of right now, we still don't know. But as 2 years starter, he brings in 5,572 passing yards, 46 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and he adds 953 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns in 2 seasons. So you put a couple notes in here because you dug a little bit deeper than I did, but the Salt Lake Tribune reported a few weeks ago that walk-on junior quarterback Bryson Barnes is the backup quarterback. I guess that really depends on who is starting the game. Based on that information, I would say that even if he has to go out there on one of those one-knee scooters, Cam Rising is probably still playing in this game.
So Utah's actual backup quarterback, he went down with an injury during fall camp, so he's at least out for the Florida game. So that's why I kind of dug into that a little bit more. Bryson Barnes is a pretty big guy. From the way his height was written was weird, but it still means a walk-on quarterback. In general, that's not usually a good thing unless you're obviously from like Blackshear, Georgia. But it's going to be tough. Now, that was a couple weeks ago. That was like mid-August that the Salt Lake Tribune had said that. But Cam Rising's played kind of off and on. He hasn't been like consistently playing with the ones. Like they're not necessarily splitting it. I think they did say Cam Rising is getting more time with the ones than Bryson Barnes, which is a good thing for the Utes and the eventual hopeful blowout of Florida, which we'll talk about in a second. But it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully we get some more news the next couple days about it.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful Cam Rising plays just because I really think he is a phenomenal quarterback and a hell of a fun guy to watch play football. But the line for this game is currently Utah favored by 7 points with the over-under at 46.5. And straight money line, Utah's favored at minus 265. So, just a couple of initial thoughts. I really like Utah's defense against Florida's offense. I think that is a phenomenal matchup for Utah's defense. Where I do have a couple of questions is going to be Utah's offensive line against Florida's defensive front seven, just because, like I said earlier, I think Florida does have an okay front seven. But if Utah runs with any sort of tempo, I think it's going to be difficult for Florida to keep up, just because, A, they are at elevation, and B, Florida's defensive line is known to be very large and not so well conditioned.
So playing in the altitude is not conducive to being big and not necessarily out of shape, but not having the cardio endurance that you would need for that.
Yeah, and there's no way to prepare for altitude like there is to prepare for heat or cold or wet. Like, you can't just be like, hey, turn the oxygen down in the building. Like, it's not a thing. So,
yeah,
I don't necessarily want to give a pick right now, just because we are going to be doing some coverage of this game, if you want to call it that. But I do think this is going to be a very interesting matchup with good versus good, and questionable versus questionable. I also, man, as someone who has tried to do athletic things at elevation, it's a motherfucker.
I've never done it. I mean, I can't speak to it, but I mean, there's a reason why. Like, if you watch NBA games, that when teams go to Denver, they struggle quite a bit. Not because the teams obviously kick ass, but being a mile high. Even like when they do games in like Mexico City, like NFL games, where it's even higher than like Denver and Salt Lake and all that. It's tough.
Yeah, so I tried to do some hiking on the Continental Divide a number of years ago. Outside of Denver, it's 14,000 feet, which is a lot higher elevation than Salt Lake City is.
And we're at sea level right now.
Yes. No, my house is quite literally 43 feet above sea level. So,
yeah.
But no, so I tried to do a little bit of a hike on the Continental Divide, 14,000 feet, kicked my ass. I'm saying like 5 steps and take a break. And then Bagram in Afghanistan was 5,600 feet. And tried to run on a treadmill when I was there for a few days. Not great, not easy. Actually very difficult. So I have some experience trying to do athletic things at elevation, and I think that Florida's going to struggle quite a bit.
I'm with you there. Yeah, but we'll save the actual official picks for Wednesday, right?
Yes, we're doing picks on Wednesday. We are, because Georgia's playing UT Martin, and it's UT Martin. We are actually having Will Ogburn back on to talk LSU Florida State with us, because that really is the marquee matchup of Week 1. So we're really excited for that. But don't forget about Thursday. We are doing the watch party of Florida Utah. There's gonna, as much shit as I talk, I will do my best to actually have an intelligent covering of the game. Because I feel like a lot of times on here I talk shit instead of actually, there's a combination of talking shit and being intelligent. So I'll try to tone the talking shit down a little bit. But we will still have fun. The comments in the live stream will be open, so that'll be a lot of fun. But
yeah.
Twitter @FinderPod, or X, whatever you want to call it. Instagram and Threads @nothing.finder.pod. Facebook and YouTube, just search us there. Recent episodes have been going up on YouTube, so if you want to watch, you can't make the stream, check us out on YouTube. Rate and review the show. Give us 5 stars. Send us a screenshot. We'll give you a sticker. All that fun stuff. Check us out on Millions. Follow us there. We will be doing some cool stuff for them moving forward. Go follow millions.co and it's dot spelled out, on Instagram and Twitter/X. Because they will be sharing a lot of our reels and stuff moving forward, so we're really excited about that. But as always, guys, remember, there is nothing finer in the land.
And John, obnoxious Georgia fan.
3rd and a mile. Duggan from the 2 will throw it all the way across the field. It's picked up by Bullardy. Bullard got it again. Bennett to throw, lobs it to the right corner. There's McConkey. He got on his donkey and made a sliding catch in the right corner.